Hi, my name is Sarah Scarborough, and today I'm going to be talking about the unreliability of eyewitness testimony and memory. So, first of all, I'm going to start out by saying a list of words. Now, I just want you to listen right now. The words are night, bed, dark, blanket, pillow, dreams, peace, snoring, quiet, and bedroom. Now, I want you to take those words and I want you to put them on a sheet of paper. Finally, did you put the word sleep down? Because I didn't say the word sleep. And this mini experiment just shows that memory is susceptible and can actually change. Basically, the human memory is very malleable and can change depending on a certain number of factors. And this is why that they shouldn't be relied on heavily in court. Eyewitness testimony should not be relied on heavily because it changes and it's hard to know without corroborative evidence whether or not a person's memory is true. The United States court system is supposed to be about having fair trials and due justice. And how can they do this if people are being wrongfully convicted because of somebody's memory being off? Memory is susceptible and therefore should not be relied on heavily in a case. Memory has been found to be influenced by a number of outside sources. A majority of research focuses on eyewitness accounts. Memory can be affected by anything from anxiety and stress to lack of sleep, reconstructive memories, a weapon focus, or leading questions. There have been several studies of memory, but one of the biggest studies of memory has been the Loftus and Palmer study. Elizabeth Loftus is focused very much on eyewitness accounts. And in this study, they basically focused on if the way a question is worded can influence a person's memory and how a person remembers a certain event. They reconstructed car accidents and basically asked one group of people how fast a car was going and another group of people what the speed of the car was, and found that those who were asked how fast the car was going actually responded that the car was going much faster than those who were asked the speed of the car, who were more accurate. Another study on memory has been from the Daegu University in South Korea, and it focused on brain flow differences between a real memory and a false memory. And basically they concluded that true memory showed activity and increased blood flow in the hippocampus, where memories are located at, whereas a false memory showed increased activity and blood flow in the frontoparietal region. Now, this is the part of the brain that's associated with familiarity and not memory. The misinformation effect is a psychological phenomenon that is used to describe the tendency for original memories to be manipulated by information that are introduced post-event. So if a person were to witness a car accident and they were asked, what did the man look like, instead of what did the person look like, they might see a man instead of a woman, even if it was a woman who committed the crime. So these have shown that even introducing subtle information can drastically change the way that an individual recalls an event. This is important to notice because in a courtroom, there are many prosecutors who will sit there and badger a witness and, basically ask them, did you witness this? Did you see this? And they introduce these little pieces of information and an individual can just be like, yes, I did. This shows many concerns about memory and its reliability. So the extent of this problem. It's really honestly impossible to track how many people this actually affects, but it's been found that it has been listed as the leading factor in wrongful convictions. Approximately 71% of the 360 wrongful convictions found in the United States were actually from, eyewitness memory being unreliable. Now, most of these wrongful convictions have been overturned post-conviction thanks to DNA evidence. But imagine if this evidence weren't found. These people would still be in jail and nobody would know that they were wrongfully convicted. Those infected include innocent defendants, family and friends of the defendants, family of victims, because they don't get true justice, as well as future victims of the person who committed the actual crime. The future of criminal justice basically depends on adapting to new knowledge that's introduced, such as the studies on memory. If left unchecked, this issue may cause more people to actually become wrongfully imprisoned, and it'll be due to eyewitness accounts and memory that's not reliable. Now, memory is extremely susceptible, and it's impossible to guarantee if it is accurate, but removing it completely from courtrooms isn't very practical. But instead, you can add corroborative evidence to make sure that a person's memory actually fits what's going on. Even the person giving a testimony over their memory may not even realize that their memory has changed. This is the plan for the future. It's important to ensure that memory is correct by attempting to limit misinformation and trying to limit the wording of questions in order to have it be as neutral as possible. And it's important to enforce the use of corroborative evidence and not just witness statements and identifications used to give out a guilty verdict. It's important to limit the use of eyewitness testimony in courtrooms as well as eyewitness identifications through lineups and show-ups. It should work through law enforcement by law enforcement officers doing their investigations as well as in courtrooms by judges and attorneys during trials. An example would be a prosecuting attorney is more likely to use witness testimony and identification in order to appeal a jury rather than using actual evidence, because it's easier for them to gain a guilty verdict that way. And it's been deemed that eyewitness testimony is not reliable. The advantages of limiting the use of eyewitness testimony in courtrooms include that everyone will benefit except for the prosecution, because convictions are going to be harder to get, and a prosecutor wants one thing and they want justice. However, they want justice for the victim based on arresting and getting the defendant to be guilty, because in the trial, that's who they believe is guilty. There's a lower likelihood of wrongfully convicted individuals this way. After this goes into effect, there would be way less people being wrongfully convicted, and investigations would require more police work, which as they should be, and there would be corroborative evidence for witness identification and testimony in order to make sure that their memory makes sense and that it falls with everything else. To conclude, eyewitness memory is extremely susceptible and it shouldn't be relied on as heavily as it is in courtrooms today. Also, it should require corroborative evidence to make sure that everything being said is accurate. So my call to action is to limit the reliance on witness identification and testimony. Judges, lawyers, prosecutors, and police investigators should use and find corroborative evidence to leave little to the imagination and allow basically the most accurate memory to be recalled from a witness if they're using witnesses on the stand. And that's my presentation. Thank you.